What's up, expats and travelers alike? I'm Josh with Expats Everywhere, and in this video today, you're going to learn about the 5 biggest differences between expat hub of San Miguel de Allende and Mexican cultural hub of Guanajuato. And wait to the end because Alex is going to tell you why he would never move to one of these ever again. So we're bringing in Alex here to talk about San Miguel de Allende and Guanajuato, about the differences, the 5 biggest differences that he sees between the two. These are in no particular order, but we're going to start with the expat community. Can you tell us, what's the difference between the expat community?
Yeah, so in San Miguel de Allende, it's kind of an old hippie enclave. And so there's a lot of retiree, sort of artsy, hippie type folks. The community, the expat community is almost entirely older, like retirement age and older. There's not a lot of people that are younger. So that's kind of what that looks like. In Guanajuato, there's actually very little of an expat community at all. There's few enough that you end up meeting most of them if you're there for a while. And they're mostly older too. So that was kind of a tricky thing about living in both places, was as a younger person who was still learning Spanish, it was a bit isolating in that way, but both had other things about living there that were pretty great.
Did it help you learn Spanish at a quicker rate since there weren't as many expats?
Yeah, definitely. Well, more so in Guanajuato because less of the service people knew how to speak any English. In San Miguel, like, people in restaurants, a lot of them spoke a bit of English and they like to practice. So definitely learned a little bit faster in Guanajuato.
All right, well, that leads us into the second biggest difference, which is the restaurant scene. So tell us, how's the restaurant scene different?
Yeah, for sure. So that's my favorite part of San Miguel de Allende. It has an amazing restaurant scene. Mexican food's pretty much my favorite cuisine on the planet already. And
nice.
San Miguel has from inexpensive local fare to like high-end, upscale places, and it's also affordable. Like living there, my wife and I would go out to eat a lot, and that was kind of that was a lot of our fun and what made it really fun to live there. Guanajuato, it doesn't have as many modern or refined restaurants, but there's really great, super cheap street food, and there's a few quite good restaurants. Both have really beautiful restaurants, like just amazing patios and stuff like that. But Guanajuato has this kind of extra special element, and I'll talk more about it in the culture question. But tons of street musicians everywhere. Nice. And so, like, muy romantico to go out for dinner there, and just live music everywhere. People come up to you and want to play you a song, and it's awesome.
Sweet. And is there a big price difference between the two?
A bit. Guanajuato is a bit cheaper. Doesn't have as many expats or foreign tourists. Most of the tourism there is local. So it makes it a bit more affordable overall.
Okay, well, let's get into the next one, number 3, which is the locals. So we're talking about, how are the locals different?
Guanajuato is like a real cultural center for Mexico. It's the beginning of the Mexican Revolution started there, when local workers overthrew the Spanish kind of colonialist people there. So people have a lot of pride in that there. And there's a big university there, which I can talk more about. It really has like just good energy to it. San Miguel, it has good energy too, but there's a little bit more of a kind of have and have nots feel to the place and reality to the place, because it basically was a small town with not much money until there became this expat community. So yeah, great locals in both places. We had good experiences with the locals in both places, but there's more of a kind of vibrance and alive feeling to the culture in Guanajuato.
Okay, great. Well, let's move on to the next one, number 4, which is the culture. So tell us about the cultural differences.
Similar about the center of the Mexican Revolution being in Guanajuato. but these towns are pretty close to each other. They're a few hours away from each other. So San Miguel also has some of this cultural history. So there's still some of that. Guanajuato, however, is home to the biggest and best performing arts university in Mexico, and it's considered a really good one worldwide. And so, it's a big university town, so there's a lot of young people. There's a lot of young people energy, and that's a lot of fun. And they're all performing arts people. So like, there's tons of, in addition to street musicians, just street performers, clowns, human statue people, jugglers. It actually can be a bit much sometimes. Like if you go on a busy weekend night and try to eat like in the main square on the patio, there will be like 3 different bands all within 40 feet of you playing loud music. And then someone else will come up to you with a violin, like, do you want a song? It's incredible. I've never been any place like that. Yeah, that's what would keep me kind of coming back to Guanajuato right there.
Nice. And then the last difference that we're going to talk about before we get to the teaser question that I talked about in this intro, tell us about the scenery. What's the difference there?
Yeah, both really beautiful places. They're in so the state that both these towns in is called Guanajuato, and Guanajuato City is the town. Both of those are kind of desert highlands of Mexico, so it's high altitude desert with really striking mountains around. The difference is Guanajuato's kind of in these mountains, and San Miguel, you can see these beautiful mountains in the distance. Another thing that's really unique about Guanajuato, if you can't tell, I really like this place. It's a really unique, romantic, beautiful place. So it's built in a valley with really steep walls on either side. So you get that nice, like, Central America, all different color buildings going up the sides of the hills type stuff.
Yeah.
That makes it very beautiful. And then in addition to that, and this is kind of, it's related to scenery. It's kind of what you don't see. It's a big silver mining town. So They used to have the most productive silver mine in the world. That I think for like 50 years, they produced half the silver of any mines in the world or something like that.
Jeez.
That's where the money came from to build this beautiful university. And there's a big, beautiful cathedral. And so then, they're diggers to dig these mines. And so they built tunnels all underneath this town and through the walls of the mountain. So there's no traffic. Like, you could think a valley like that would be constricted and you'd have traffic in the middle. But you can get from anywhere outside of the mountains just straight into the town. And then the main flow of traffic in the town is underground in a tunnel too. And all the parking is underground. So up on top of that, it's the main road is just for pedestrians. And like, it just gives it this, really kind of old school magical feel to it.
Nice.
So that's another cool thing about, yeah.
Nice. Well, before you answer the teaser question, which I teased in the intro again, like I said, because off camera, Alex told me that he would never live in San Miguel de Allende again, and he's going to tell us why in just a second. But Alex, can you give us some context to like who you are, what you do, so that people can kind of have an idea, and then why you're going to answer the question the way you are?
Sure. Yeah, so I'm a life coach. I specialize in helping people transform their lives, and particularly if healing from trauma needs to be a part of that transformation. And I have a YouTube channel where I discuss things on this topic and interview people about how they've changed their lives or have lived kind of outside the box, meaningful lives and stuff like that. Before I moved to Central America, just being chronically ill and chronically stressed out for a long time, and getting out of the country was part of kind of just letting everything go and leaving all that stuff behind and reinventing myself and healing from the things I needed to heal from. So yeah, that's a big part of how my wife and I ended up on this journey, which took us a year in Mexico and now 2 years in Guatemala. And San Miguel was the first place that we moved. Basically, we chose there because neither of us spoke much Spanish, and we knew that was a pretty easy place for English speakers to go, and it looked beautiful, and it could find fast internet. It wasn't expensive, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, hot spot for expats.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, like, no shade on San Miguel. We really loved being there. But just since then, we've discovered so many other amazing places, and really like how big and awesome Mexico is. And I think the reason I wouldn't want to stay there's two things. Like, one is that there aren't expats my age there at all. And then the other is that it's a bit much kind of haves and have-nots. And there's kind of like if I was going to retire, I would consider it like lovely place to retire. And that's what the expat community is there doing. But they're only going to get so integrated into the local culture. So that's something that I really love about where I am now, is that there's much more blending and kind of gray area to who is doing what and who has what and that sort of thing.
Yeah. So would you call it like a Mexico light?
Huh. Yeah. Yeah. There's a little bit of a feeling of kind of like it's like a sanitized version of Mexico, but like very, very safe, clean, pretty, and missing some of the grit. You're missing some of Mexico, but it's a lovely place.
Okay, awesome. Well, guys, if you want to know more about Alex's life, you can pop over to a video that we are doing about his life in Guatemala. He's going to talk to us about that. And if not, Alex, how can people get a hold of you?
Would you be able to link my YouTube channel
Absolutely.
in the description of the video?
100%.
That'd be great. And I'm on Instagram. Awesome, thanks. And I'm on Instagram at AlexWhiteCoaching.
All right, so AlexWhiteCoaching, and then we're also going to put his YouTube link in the description below so you guys can check that out. Alex, thanks so much for telling us the 5 biggest differences between these two Mexican towns.
My pleasure, man. Thank you very much.